Welcome back to another episode of PrakPlays. Today we'll be continuing our 29 Let's Go campaign from TooFatLardies.
As you know, the Americans in this campaign have been advancing from Omaha Beach to capture a bridge at Insigny. The Americans' initial thrust took them through the hamlets of Lacombe, Arthenay, and finally to Saint-Germain, where the arrival of a new German platoon with 2 mortar tanks stopped the Americans in their tracks, although with a heavy loss to the Germans.
Given these losses, Commander Kamp, the German platoon leader, decided to counterattack the Americans at Arthenay with his original platoon, hoping to push the Americans back toward the beach. Unfortunately for the Germans, the Americans held fast at Arthenay and again inflicted significant casualties on the Germans. Licking their wounds, the Germans retreated to Saint-Germain with no good options.
At this point, both of Commander Kamp's platoons are battered, and he still cannot contact German headquarters at Insigny due to the American Navy's recent bombardment of the town. And until contact can be reestablished, he has no idea how much longer he must hold until the German evacuation at Insigny is completed.
But it's now time for another American assault on Saint-Germain. This time, however, should be easier for the Americans for at least 2 reasons. First, the American headquarters, realizing that Saint-Germain was a tougher nut to crack than originally thought, has decided to allocate more support units to the assault than their first attack. Moreover, the Americans will be attacking a German platoon which is significantly weaker after taking casualties in the first battle.
Scouting the town, Lieutenant Morris decides not to change his assault plans from the original battle. Again, the Americans will assault the town using mortars and hedgerows to cover their advance, while their tanks advance down the only road into the village.
The American tanks first appear to provide overwatch as the American infantry advances toward the town. To counter the American tanks, the Germans deploy their 2 mortars in the village. At the same time, German infantry barricades itself in the village buildings.
Knowing they are likely outnumbered, the Germans attempt to turn the tables early in the game with a bold move. They deploy their only anti-tank unit, a Panzerschreck team, in the church courtyard, as close as possible to the American tanks. If they can destroy even one of those tanks early, it could balance the game in their favor.
But unlike in the last Battle of Saint-Germain, the Panzerschreck team isn't lucky this time, and their first shot misses. Both American tanks fire back and immediately eliminate the German Panzerschreck team, a huge setback for the Germans.
At the same time, American mortars begin shelling the town, while the American infantry and tanks move towards the village to occupy the church. As the Americans approach, they receive small arms and Panzerfaust fire from the church. Inflicting a few casualties, the American infantry and tanks return fire. The tanks' high explosive shells decimate the German squad, taking out 6 of 8 men and lightly wounding both the squad leader and Commander Kampf. Realizing they cannot hold the church and in fear of losing 2 commanders, the remains of the German squad vacate the church and head deeper into the village. Like the last Battle of Saint-Germain, the Americans occupy the church and gain a toehold in the village.
But the Germans haven't given up yet. As the American infantry occupies the church, the German mortars advance and smartly place themselves in positions to fire at the Americans without the American tanks being able to fire back. The mortars then concentrate fire on the American bazooka team, the only American infantry unit that can harm them, and eliminate it quickly.
Joined by the mortars' fire, German infantry from the village begins firing from the village buildings into the American infantry approaching the town. As American casualties begin to mount, the assault is in jeopardy of collapsing again, as it did in the previous battle. Realizing this, Lieutenant Morris orders the American tanks forward. The Americans must beat back the German mortars if they have any hope of capturing Saint-Germain.
A sharp tank battle quickly erupts. To fire at the mortars, the American Shermans must advance in the open, while the mortars shoot and scoot, using the village buildings as cover, leading to the mortars gaining the upper hand in the tank duel. As multiple German shells bounce off the first Sherman, one finally knocks out its driver. Seeing the stunned American tank, the German mortars pounce, hoping to make this a 2-on-1 battle. As the injured American tank attempts to reverse to safety, the martyrs give chase. But in this process, the martyrs overexpose themselves to the other American Sherman, which lands a direct hit on one of the martyrs, knocking it out of action. With the martyrs' destruction, the initiative quickly shifts back to the Americans.
With American infantry advancing, mortar rounds falling, half of their armor gone, two commanders wounded, and having lost nearly a full squad, Commander Kampf begins to assess his options. Seeing the large number of Americans entering the village and the deployment of American flamethrowers, he knows he cannot hold Saint-Germain, so he orders a withdrawal, leaving the Americans with the village and a victory.
Overall, the battle has been another bloody engagement for both sides, but the Americans have finally taken the town with overwhelming force and can continue their advance on Insigny. But one question remains: are the Americans moving fast enough? Or have the previous German stalling tactics managed to buy enough time for the German forces at Insigny to evacuate over the bridge? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching another episode of PrakPlays. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again in the next one.